Welcome guys to another As We Play video from ExpansiveDLC.com. I'm Ben Monroe and I've been playing Transistor. Transistor is the latest title to come out of indie developers Supergiant Games. Now you may remember this name from their previous title, Bastion, which was released on the Xbox 360 and Steam way back in 2011. Bastion was certainly a sleeper hit for myself. I was not expecting a game of such quality, beautiful artwork, fantastic gameplay, narrative, and just a simply enjoyable world to be in that Bastion portrayed. It was really unexpected from a developer which we know nothing about at the time. I think Bastion is certainly destined to go down as one of the best indie titles of the Xbox 360 era in particular. So with some very fond memories of playing Bastion in mind, I entered it into Transistor with some rather high expectations, and I'm pleased to say it did not disappoint. Now Transistor does bear some similarities to its older sibling Bastion. I mean, they're both top-down action RPGs, and they share certainly some similarities in both art style and the graphics. But I certainly think that the narrative tones and themes of Transistor are quite removed from Bastion, and the gameplay in particular is certainly a step in a completely different direction. But we'll get to that further on. So, in Transistor, you take control of the character Red. Red is one of the top performers in the city of Cloudbank. Or rather, she was before everybody got killed by the process. See, you start the game completely lost, unarmed, and deep behind enemy lines, surrounded by the process. Now, the process are a bunch of, I suppose, robots and minions that are controlled by the Camerata. And the Camerata are this evil group who failed to assassinate the character Red using something called the Transistor. And you quickly stumble across this transistor as it's buried in the chest of a poor gentleman who you run into just at the start of the game. So, yanking that transistor out of this corpse lying there, that's when the constant narration suddenly begins. Narrated once again by Logan Cunningham, who's reprising the role that he took up in Bastion, which I have to say he did an amazing job there, and once again, the quality is just the same. Much of the story and exposition of the world of Cloudbank City is explained through this constantly running monologue provided to you by the Transistor. So, sword in hand, it's time to set off on our exploration of Cloudbank City and possibly defeat the process and the Camerata all in one go, eh? Well, this exploration of Cloudbank City is certainly something I enjoyed greatly with my time with the game. I mean, firstly, the place looks beautiful. It's an absolutely stunning art style. Something Supergiant Games have proved they're capable of with Bastion, but yet Cloudbank City is nothing like anything I've ever seen before in a video game. It's a truly unique aesthetic and one that I really enjoyed. The narrative and story and universe behind the world is also told excellently. Rather than the game being bogged down with heavy scenes of dialogue or large pages of text, little snippets of the world and the story are told either through like I previously mentioned, the narration, or you'll also come across these terminals, which offer up different explanations of the various characters that you bump into in the game. I mean, all gameplay elements aside, Cloudbank City is quite simply just a really pleasant and enjoyable place to be. I mean, even if it is just a little melancholy. The soundtrack, the art aesthetic, discovering different facts and stories set within the world is just absolutely fascinating. And I soaked it all up. I wanted to explore as much of this world as possible. And that was even before the process turned up. Because, yep, that's right, unfortunately, we can't just hang out with our talking sword in the beautiful city of Cloudbank. No, the process have got to turn up to ruin the day. And this is where the rather interesting combat mechanics come into play. The combat itself is a rather interesting mixture between real-time combat and a more turn-based tactical element. You see, you're able to run about the battlefield when the process do turn up, using your sword's multitude of abilities, and you'll gain more of these abilities through something called memory banks, I believe, as you explore the world. The amount of customization that is open to the Transistor and the different combat moves that you can use is simply baffling. And at first, it can be quite daunting to get your head around it all. But once you do, man, you'll spend hours simply exploring the different varieties of moves that you can perform. I certainly did. Yet when you're not freewheeling it, running around the battlefield, just swinging your sword willy-nilly, you're able to use something called the turn process. Now, turn bears some similarities, I believe, to the VAT system that featured in the Fallout games. When turn is activated, Red herself is able to pause, stop time, plan out the moves and attacks, and then when you enter back into real time, all the moves will be performed extremely quickly. It adds a nice tactical depth to the game when you're able to try out a variety of different moves and find out what is most effective to taking on the different breeds of process that you run into throughout the game. Although, unfortunately, I think this is where the one downside of the combat does come, because once you find out what movesets are most effective and what will equip you well for taking out bad guys in the quickest and causing the most damage possible, eventually you just learn to move through the motions, and the combat can become quite repetitive as a result, which is rather unfortunate because there's certainly a lot of worlds of exploration within the combat system itself to be had. But once you find out the most effective moves, I tended to just stick to them so I can move on to the next section and explore the world even more. Not only this, though, but using the turn system also drains the power meter of the Transistor, and you can only actually perform attacks if this charge meter is filled. Meaning that once you've used turn, which nigh on depletes the whole thing, you're left running about the battlefield, waiting for it to recharge before you even do anything. I mean, it kind of slows down and bogs down the combat quite a bit, which to me kind of felt out of touch with the rest of the game. Something else that also felt a little at odds with Transistor was the challenge modes or challenge puzzles. Every so often in the game, you'll bump into a door that'll take you to a kind of a beach resort. A nice little place with a beach ball, a hammock, record player. You can kick back, relax, listen to the game's fantastic soundtrack. But this beach is also populated by a few doors that will take you to different challenge sections. Now, these challenge sections are kind of the formation of puzzles using the game's combat system to complete them, rather such as defeat so many enemies in a certain amount of time. Now, these challenges did become quite frustrating. Again, the game up until this point, until I bumped into these challenges, had just kind of felt relaxed, chilled, rather melancholy, and it was enjoyable to just explore the world and take my time with it. I didn't want to spend too much time with these challenges, which is a shame because as you complete the challenges, you're able to unlock the game, once again, the game's fantastic soundtrack to listen to at your pleasure. Despite these few drawbacks, however, Transistor is quite simply one of the best gaming experiences I've had this year. The city of Cloudbank is absolutely stunning, and I enjoyed every second I spent in it. The characters, such as the mysterious Transistor and Red, were surrounded by mystery and intrigue, forcing me to seek out and learn as much about them as I can. And the way in which you do so is just extremely clever. You're able to interact with the world in some quirky little ways which I just hadn't expected. Being able to post replies or answer polls to news stories and questions that just tell you more about the character of Red and other characters within the world. I don't want to say too much about the story because obviously spoilers, but I just recommend that every second you spend in the city of Cloudbank, you seek out and learn as much about it as possible because it's definitely worth knowing. And it's not as if you're going to have trouble justifying your time spent in Cloudbank City because, man, it's beautiful to look at and you'll enjoy every second you spend there. Transistor simply isn't just another Bastion, which I can say I'm guilty to thinking that it might have been. And that is what I was expecting. I would have been happy with that, definitely. Bastion was a great game. No, Transistor is an entirely new experience from Supergiant Games. It's certainly slower paced, more melancholy, and does take a little time to get into, but once it has you hooked, man, it simply won't let go. There's simply so much to love about Transistor, you'll find it hard to eventually walk away. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this As We Play review of Transistor. I've been Ben Monroe at ExpansiveDLC.com. You can follow me on Twitter at xbenblasterx. Also follow Expansive DLC. And of course, be sure to leave any thoughts and opinions you have on Transistor in the comment section below. For more thoughts, reviews and opinions, and especially news on everything video games, be sure to check expansivedlc.com. Once again, I've been Ben Monroe. Thanks for watching, guys.